When I first married David, I thought I had found everything I ever wanted. He was kind, thoughtful, dependable, and funny in ways that made life easier when the days felt heavy. We lived in Denver, Colorado, where we built our first home together, filled it with photographs of our memories, and made promises that we believed would last forever. From the outside, we looked like the perfect couple. Friends often told us how lucky we were, how envious they felt when they saw how David pulled out chairs for me at restaurants, or how I always remembered to bring him his favorite coffee from the shop down the street. But behind closed doors, things weren't as picture-perfect as everyone assumed. The truth is, I began to notice gaps in our marriage that I couldn't ignore. It wasn't about money or housework or even arguments. David and I rarely fought. It was about something deeper, the emotional connection that started to fade as the years passed. I wanted passion. I wanted adventure. I wanted to feel alive again. But David was predictable. He liked routine, same coffee, same work schedule, same television shows in the evening. At first, that stability was comforting. But as time went on, it felt suffocating. Instead of talking to him about it, I buried my feelings. I told myself that marriage wasn't about excitement, that I was being selfish, that love meant compromise. But deep down, a voice inside me whispered, "You're not happy." The turning point came when I met Michael, a new manager who joined our company. Unlike David, he was spontaneous, charming, and carried an energy that filled any room he entered. While David preferred quiet nights, Michael thrived on laughter, conversation, and unpredictability. He noticed things about me that David hadn't in years. The new dress I wore, the way I styled my hair differently. He asked questions, remembered details, and made me feel seen. It wasn't love at first sight. It wasn't even attraction. It was validation, something I didn't realize I was starving for until Michael offered it so effortlessly. And so, when he began inviting me to after-work coffee or walking me to my car, I didn't say no. I told myself it was harmless. I told myself it was friendship. But deep down, I knew the truth. I was slowly stepping onto a dangerous path. It happened on a rainy evening after a long day at work. Michael and I stayed late finishing a project. When the power flickered in the office, we laughed nervously, and I felt something shift inside me. He looked at me with eyes that said everything words couldn't. And for a brief moment, I let go of the woman I thought I was. We kissed. It wasn't just the kiss, it was the betrayal it carried. I knew it the second it happened. My heart raced, not from excitement, but from guilt. That night, I went home to David, who was waiting at the dining table with my favorite meal. He smiled, asking me about my day, completely unaware of what I had just done. I excused myself, locked myself in the bathroom, and cried silently. Cheating wasn't what I thought it would be. I expected it to feel thrilling, rebellious, maybe even liberating. Instead, it felt heavy, like carrying a secret that poisoned everything I touched. Every time David hugged me, I felt undeserving. Every time he said, "I love you," I felt like a fraud. The voice inside me grew louder. Why did you do this? Why wasn't David enough? I tried to justify it to myself. David didn't understand me anymore. He wasn't exciting. I needed something he couldn't give. But excuses didn't erase the truth. I had betrayed a man who had done nothing but love me. Weeks later, I broke. We were sitting on the couch one quiet evening. David was watching a basketball game while I stared blankly at my phone. My chest tightened, my throat burned, and before I could stop myself, I blurted, "David, I need to tell you something." He muted the TV and looked at me with patient eyes. "What is it?" My voice cracked as I said the words I had dreaded. "I cheated on you." Silence. The kind of silence that stretches for miles, suffocating everything in its path. David's face went pale. His eyes searched mine, desperate for me to say it was a joke, a mistake, a misunderstanding. But I didn't. He stood up, walked to the window, and stayed there for what felt like hours. Finally, he asked in a broken voice, "Why?" And I had no good answer. The days that followed were the hardest of my life. David slept in the guest room. He barely spoke to me, except for practical matters. The house felt colder, heavier. Linda, my best friend, came over one evening and said, "You need to figure out if you want to save this marriage." Because if you do, you're going to have to fight for it like never before. She was right. I begged David for counseling. I wrote him letters. I apologized over and over, not just with words, but with actions, showing up, listening, doing everything I could to prove I was willing to change. Healing wasn't quick. It wasn't easy. But slowly, step by step, David and I began to rebuild. Counseling forced me to confront the emptiness inside me that led to my mistake. It wasn't about size or excitement or thrill. It was about my inability to communicate, to be honest about my needs before it was too late. For David, it was about learning to express more than routine affection. He admitted he had grown comfortable, taking our marriage for granted without realizing I was slipping away. Together, we began to rediscover each other, not as the people we once were, but as the people we were becoming. Looking back, I realized something important. Infidelity isn't about someone being not enough. It's about unspoken needs, unresolved wounds, and choices made in weakness instead of courage. Cheating didn't make me stronger. It didn't fill the void. It only created pain. But facing the consequences, admitting the truth, and fighting to rebuild taught me lessons I'll carry forever. That love must be nurtured, not assumed. That honesty, even when uncomfortable, is better than silence. That mistakes don't have to end everything, if both people are willing to heal. David and I aren't perfect. We still struggle. But we're stronger now, not because we never broke, but because we chose to repair what was shattered. And I will never forget that night. The night I risked everything and the long, painful journey that taught me what love really means.